Questions. Up next, I'd like to invite Kathryn Gilje. As we mentioned before, we have collected over 40,000 comments in opposition to methyl iodide, and we intend to present those comments to the governor shortly after this. Kathy.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathryn Gilje, and I'm the Director of Pesticide Action Network North America. Despite, I have to say, my mind has been obsessed with BP, and despite the popularity of BP in the news today, it's really the words of Rex Tillerson, CEO of ExxonMobil, that have been echoing in my ears. When talking about oil spills to Congress the other day, he told Congress, "We are not well equipped to deal with them. There will be damage. Damage will occur." This after a devastating damage and a tremendous disaster. I can't shake Tillerson's statement because it resonates so deeply with what DPR's own scientific panel is saying about the proposal to use methyl iodide as a soil fumigant in California. It pretty much boils down to there will be damage, we're not well equipped to deal with it, and damage will occur. We are here today to ask the state of California not to ask us, your residents, to bear the risk of a technology that scientists know we are unable to control. A chemical that is being pushed by the largest private pesticide corporation in the world, based not in California and not in the United States. The opportunity we have today, in comparison to this oil spill and other environmental disasters, is to prevent the risk from the legal use and from accidents, especially in the face of available and safer alternatives and new technologies, including one of the most thriving organic berry industries here based in the Golden State. We just can say no to this risk. These are real tangible things that we'll experience. We can say no to increased calls from oncologists telling those we love that they have cancer. We can say no to the risk of miscarriages for women that are working in the strawberry fields. What I'd like to say today is that there are very few opportunities we each have in our lifetimes to make a profound decision that will impact the health and safety of future generations, of the environment, and of our neighbors. This is one of those moments in California, and we're here to ask Marianne Warmerdam, the Director of the Department of Pesticide Regulation, and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger to say no to methyl iodide. Right after this, we are heading to the governor's office to submit just some of the more than 40,000 signatures and petitions and comments that have been gathered from people across the state in opposition to this chemical. Several people have bravely traveled here to Sacramento to represent the tens of thousands of people that are in opposition to methyl iodide, and we will present the governor directly with these petitions and signatures. Thank you so much for being here today.
And so that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions for any of the folks speaking?
Has the governor spoken out at all? So what has he said?
At this point, the governor hasn't offered an official statement in regards to methyl iodide.
Have you asked him for one?
We've asked him to oppose it publicly, and we haven't heard anything from his office at this point.
Could you address what happens next if, say, they do register methyl iodide? What sort of options do you have at that point?
Yeah. I don't know, Susan, if you'd like to address this, I can. If you want to? No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
We believe that the Birth Defects Prevention Act that was passed in the early 80s would indicate that the director of the Department of Pesticide Regulation should cancel registration of any pesticides that are found to cause birth defects or problems with developmental toxicity. So there is likely to be a lawsuit.
So that's the most likely. There's no way to appeal based on...
Right.
It's just a lawsuit.
And from the federal angle, the US EPA has been served with a legal petition at the end of March to ban uses of methyl iodide nationwide. So there's the federal angle too.
Can I also ask you about, what about the impact on the fruit itself? I guess Paul was saying it's mainly before the plants, to get rid of the diseases in the soil. What about the fruit itself? Is that also a risk?
The question is about whether the fruit is contaminated. And with methyl iodide, no. Because the methyl iodide is a gas and it's injected into the soil before the strawberries are planted. But what is not clear is what happens when you put methyl iodide in a field year after year after year. the iodide accumulates. And humans don't handle excess iodide in their systems very well. It disrupts your thyroid function, and that causes either hyper or hypothyroidism, both of which are very difficult to manage and control. And so we don't know whether that's going to be the case. Will strawberries pick up the excess iodide? We don't really know the answer to that. And so, like Assemblymember Monning said, we're going to be the guinea pigs if this chemical gets registered.
When are you expecting a decision?
I think the answer is any day now. The question was, when are we expecting a decision? The Department of Pesticide Regulation has opened the public comment period until June 29th. Any day after June 29th, the agency would be allowed to make a decision. At that point, they then would take any changes to any regulations on how the chemical might be used to the federal level, and then that is put on the label of the chemical. And as many folks know, the label is the law for pesticides, so that would determine how it is then used here in California.
Could you also address, given what's happening at the federal level as well, how significant is this decision here in California for the rest of the country?
Yeah, the question is, what does the decision mean here for the rest of the country? And a decision on methyl iodide here in California has great ramifications for the rest of the country. We are the state where a majority of strawberries are grown for the entire country. The federal government is looking to a decision made here on the chemical, and at a hearing this past year suggested that they would consider reopening the registration of the chemical should California deny it. Anything else? Great. Yeah.
According to Dr. Shore, he said that if we decide to register this, he said the boiling point of water and methyl iodide are so different that we won't be able to call it back. We can't extract it back out of the soil once we put it in. And if it's going to meet our groundwater and become methyl alcohol, that seems very toxic to the plants. And for the people, we don't drink methyl alcohol to live. We drink water, and we want to be healthy.
Yeah. I'll defer to Susan.
Groundwater contamination is a real risk with methyl iodide. If the soil is irrigated or if it rains soon after the tarps are pulled, it will make its way into groundwater, and it will slowly break down over time, but every year people will be adding more methyl iodide. It may last as long as a year or two, and then when it breaks down, it also forms not only methyl alcohol but also iodide ion again, and which can be very problematic if there's excess iodide in the water. It's approved for use federally on tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, vineyards and orchards, but the vineyards and orchards would only be using it every time they replant a new orchard. So that's not the biggest problem for California, but the strawberries they fumigate every year. And I'm not sure whether it will be used on tomatoes and peppers in California. It's going to be an expensive fumigant, and so the value of the crop needs to be high enough to make it worth it for the grower.
Has Europe banned it?
Let's question here first.
There's lots of alternatives. The organic farmers rotate their crops, and if they found that if they rotate in a cole crop like broccoli, they have great yields, good success. The problem with growing strawberries every year in the same location is you will develop soil pests. But there are even methods of essentially sterilizing the soil that require no chemicals. Anaerobic soil disinfestation is a new technique that's being developed at Santa Cruz, where you put lots of organic matter in the soil, lots of water, and put a tarp on top and let the sun cook it, steam it essentially, and kill off all the bugs. Use of mustard seed meal, also tilled into the soil, creates an unhealthy environment for many of the soil-borne pests. So there's lots and lots of techniques out there. We need the growers to have a little kick of not having these fumigants readily available to facilitate the adoption of these alternatives.
Great.